We're ready for our next speaker. This is Ron Chapman. And his is a little different. He's a motivational speaker. And he's a Toastmaster. He is the Toastmasters International awarded him the prestigious International Accredited Speaker designation. Only 58 people worldwide has ever gotten that honor. But he works with organizations as well as individuals. And usually with organizations and companies, you're helping them with their problems and things, aren't you?
Yes.
And that takes a lot to be able to help a company. But he also works with individuals too. And we did his book. It's called Seeing True. This is Ron's book, Seeing True. And it's a real easy book to read. He's got things on one side, and then on the other side, he wants you to make your own notes on what you get out of it. But a lot of times, it's good to have somebody on the outside who can look at things from a different perspective. So that's your specialty, isn't it?
Indeed, yes.
Okay, let's welcome Ron Chapman.
Thanks, Dolores.
Okay.
So I do have to tell you, I did not encounter any bad weather till I got here. And then the universe was very, very clear about my apparel tonight because everything but what you see on me was wet from my luggage getting soaked. So, okay, thanks for keeping the jacket, the pants, and the shirt, and the underwear dry. So officially, I'm on the cover of your program as a transformational philosopher. And my daughters say, "What have you been telling them?" So we're going to do some transformational philosophy here. I'm actually going to be working with what I call the Way of Spirit today, which is supported by Seeing True and some other materials that I've worked with. But in order to do that, I'd like to start this way. Who here knows anything about the basic science of a toilet? What's the basic science of a toilet?
You always keep the lid down.
That's not the science of a toilet. What's the basic science of a toilet? Gravity. Right? Gravity. Who said gravity? You get a toilet. Okay. We have more toilets. It's the giveaway. You're going to love one. People will say, "Why do you have a toilet on your shelf?" Okay, so gravity. Now, where is gravity in the universe? Who said everywhere? You get a toilet. All right. So, do you suppose that a toilet would work anywhere in the universe where there's gravity? Okay. Good. Not enough gravity on the moon? You're sure? Okay. I'll take your word for it. What causes a toilet to stop working? Dolores, clogged up, you get a toilet. Oh, I'm sorry, I threw it past you. It gets clogged up. How can you clog up a toilet? And this is a class deal. There's some things we're not going to talk about. How can you plug it up? Come on, let's hear. Toilet paper. What else? Rubber duckies. Dental floss? Dental floss. That's a stretch.
It has happened.
What else? Wash rags. Who said wash rags? You get a toilet, sir. I'm sorry? Oh. Yeah, Tampax. This is a class presentation. We won't be talking about something. Barbie doll parts. Absolutely. Paper towels. I'm sorry? Doll heads. Diapers. Let me go get some more toilets. They say you have really mastered things when you talk about anything in public. Okay. The best story I ever heard was a possum. Somebody had a possum stuck in their toilet, and somebody rescued a kitty who was stuck in their toilet. Okay. So, toilets work anywhere in the universe where there's gravity. They work as long as they're not stopped up. Basic premise, right? Okay. What do you do to get it to work again? Well, now wait a minute. What happens? Okay, hold on. Flush it. Now, what's your usual experience with flushing? Water everywhere. So I'm not going to accept flushing. Sometimes it works. But what do you do? I'm sorry? Suck it out. Plunge it. You get a toilet. You said suck, plunging. Roto-rooter. Who said Roto-rooter? Okay, so here's the question. The question is, some of you are wondering, why are we talking about toilets at a transformation conference? So the question is, what's the secret between the nature of the obstruction and the nature of the solution? Knowledge. I'm sorry? Action is a part of it. Move it. I'm sorry? Location. Opposite. Isn't it as simple as having the right solution for the nature of the blockage? That's too simple. Okay. Here's the transformational philosophy. You're just like toilets.
Thank you.
I'll tell you why I use this here in a minute. You're just like toilets. By the way, I get regular feedback that says, can't you use some other metaphor? And the answer is no, and I'll tell you why in a minute. You're just like toilets. You were designed to function as long as there is life in your body, unless you are obstructed. Just like a toilet. Now, what happens if I'm going to use your flushing metaphor here, and you get a toilet now. Tony, for having contributed prematurely. It works, though. Okay. What happens if you use the wrong tool to remove an inner obstruction? You break it, you break yourself, it doesn't work, it overflows, we flush, doesn't work. Right? I mean, people do that all the time. Right? Right? So what's this? If you want a solution, there was a question. We're going to talk about this. Part of this is going to be interactive. We're going to talk in part about the question that came up in the last session, which was how do you go to the next level? We're not quite there yet. But we're going to talk about that in a minute. Common sense helps. So does knowledge. All those are true. The great secret is that we humans evolved for 3.5 million years being problem solvers. It has been only in recent evolutionary times that we have become deep thinkers. So our first action's valuable, but our first action is to jump to a solution, right? We flush the toilet, right? And then we flush it a second time and a third time. The water's flowing over. We curse the toilet, right? You all done that? It's an inanimate object and we think it will listen, right? And we flush it 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Sooner or later we go, okay, this is not working. I got to call a plumber. I got to do something, right? That's what we do with ourselves. We don't understand the nature of the obstruction. Most of our solutions don't work. They're the wrong tool. Imagine if you had a root ball in you, like a root ball in a pipe. There's only one tool in the world of plumbing that will take care of a root ball. It's a roto-rooter. All other tools will fail. Not because they're bad tools and not because you're a bad person, because it's the wrong tool, because you don't understand the obstruction. And we spend all our time, I was watching in this last session, give me the solution, give me the solution, give me the solution, give me the solution. Rarely do we understand the problem. Now, how do I know that? Because Dolores pointed out, I work with a lot of people. I have seen over and over again that we do not understand where we are stuck and why we are stuck. And as my mentor says, if you don't understand the problem, you cannot find a solution. And yet that part of us that has evolved for 3.5 million years, who keeps trying to grab something and apply it, does not want to hear that. We jump up and we say, give me the solution, give me the solution, give me the solution. Give me the right book. It's what we do. We're wired that way. We're not bad. We're wired that way. The last thing in the world most of us do is take a step back, Well, usually we do, but only after loss of great blood from banging your head. Right? Isn't that true? We try and we try and we try and we try, and eventually life teaches us with pain. And we take a step back and say, this is not working. I should try something else. My mentor says that's a miracle. The moment of stepping back and saying, this isn't working. Now, when I work with Seeing True, whether it's with corporations, government organizations, individuals, groups, whoever, I spend my time, and we're going to spend some time here, talking about the nature of obstructions and why they work that way. It's holy ground. The first secret about obstructions is they're not bad. That's a hard one. Let me give you an example. Let me give you a couple of examples. I was working with a woman not too long ago, and the nature of her desire to move to the next level is she really wanted that next big relationship. And it had been a decade. No relationships. None. None. And she prayed and she'd gone to therapy. I mean, all the stuff she had done. And we're sitting, we're talking, and she tells me a little bit of her story. Her story is that in her childhood, she was engulfed by a mother who had a mental illness. She lost her identity. So up here in her head as an adult, a 50-year-old adult, she's saying, please, universe, bring me a relationship. Please, bring me a good relationship. Please. Down in her heart, she's saying relationship equals more sacrifice than I'm willing to give. And the universe did not respond to the thought in her head. It responded to the feeling in her heart. The feeling in her heart trumped her thought. Any of you try affirmations sometimes futilely, kind of like flushing a toilet? Yeah, and at some point in time you step back, this thing doesn't seem to work. And someone says, oh no, it works. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep flushing. Sooner or later, it'll work. My experience with affirmations, if I use them correctly, has sometimes been successful. More often than not, they fail me. Not because there's nothing wrong with affirmations, but because I'm not using the right tool for the nature of my blockage. My friend Michael became a friend, worked with him for a long time. We finally described Michael's story, his life story. Michael was a colossal failure. Every front in his life, colossal failure. Couldn't finish school, couldn't keep a job, drug addict. Eventually, we constructed Michael's life story. Child abuse. A lot of this stuff comes from stuff in childhood. You all know that, I think. If you don't, we got to talk. Child abuse. Basically, he was told he was worthless and he couldn't. But his stepdad said, you better, or I will whip your ass. You must do these things. So Michael, being a bright little kid, said, okay, I can't, I must, I won't. And at the time I was working with him, he had 35 years of won'ting. Deep in his heart, there was a report going out to the spiritual universe saying, my only solution is to won't. And he won'ted for 35 years. He was trapped, psychologically, spiritually trapped. The universe supplied a perfect solution for what he was reporting. His blockage, just like the woman I was talking about, Sharon's blockage was down in here, what she really believes, not what's up here. What's down in here is, I'm not going to get in a relationship. It will overwhelm me. I'll give up my life. No way, no how. The universe, spirit, what I like to call presence, responded perfectly every single day, 24/7, every potential date, every potential phone call, every potential blind date, everything that was set up. The universe said, okay, you don't want it. We'll make sure it doesn't happen. We'll give you countless ways to blow it up. Michael found countless ways to won't at the world. The universe was responding perfectly, nonstop, all the time. Well, there was another woman who became a friend, Margaret, who couldn't figure out why she kept deconstructing businesses. She'd build these businesses, great entrepreneur, bright woman. It'd get to a certain point, and she'd take them apart. And she said, Ron, I need some help. I need like something. I mean, what's the deal here? And we talked, and at 3 a.m., it was a long conversation. At 3 a.m. one night, sitting in a town up in the Rocky Mountains, she told me about how when she was a little girl, her baby brother died, and that she believed she was responsible. And I went, click. What's the secret here, Margaret? What's the secret? She said, I don't get it. I said, I know you don't. What was the secret? What happened every time you took a business down? And she looked at me and she blinked and tears came to her eyes and she said, every time I had to be responsible for an employee, I took the business down. I said, yeah, from down here, in your heart, in your soul, you're telling the universe, please do not let me be responsible for damage to somebody ever again. And the universe gave her every imaginable way to deconstruct a business. Every single time she hired an employee, boom, she was done. Over and over again. And see, what we do, is what I was describing. We curse it, don't we? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with this? There's nothing wrong with it. It's a perfect teaching universe. The secret is not what's wrong. The secret is what's right. What's going on here? And I'm not talking about the power of positive thinking. I'm talking about seeing it true and understanding that everything going on in your life right now, presence is responding 24/7, intimately, passionately, with great love, all the support the universe can muster, pushing you wherever your deepest held values, beliefs, and understandings lie. And we curse the outcome. It's what we do. We wonder why we're stuck, why there's a blockage, or we curse ourselves, or we curse somebody who we think did it to us. You can't walk around and just say, I'm grateful for it, unless you understand it, because it doesn't feel grateful. You can say that. Who here has long-term gratitude practices? Yeah, a few of you. Yeah. Yeah, I tried one for about 3 years and finally almost had to kill my mentor. I had reasons I could not feel grateful. I couldn't get there. What did we do? We looked at what it was that was in the way. We took care of it. I'm a really grateful man most of the time now. It's not hard at all. Takes no effort. So here's the secret in that. Presence flows always to where either the obstruction is or through the available channel. Always. No exceptions. No exceptions. So knowing that, comparing a toilet metaphor to yourselves as toilets. By the way, I should tell you why I use toilets. They tell me that not one person walks out of these sessions ever again without thinking about that darn toilet. Those of you who have them, you'll like, it's there. So I had a guy tell me, he used to work for one of the big guys, and he said, Ron, I've never seen a more powerful teaching tool, and people will hate it, because toilets are offensive. And I said, yeah, but as teachers, don't we care about retention and impact? He goes, yeah, we do, but they're going to hate it. And sure enough, I always get this feedback. It's like, can't you use a kitchen sink or a garbage disposal or something? And I mean, I guess I could throw kitchen sinks out at you, but styrofoam toilets. It sticks. It sticks. A lot of you will go out of here today and you will have a transformational perspective about your life. If you get curious about this, what's the only question to ask now? There's only one question to ask. What's that question? What's the blockage? A variation would be, what's going on here? Here's the secret. The tool finds you. When you know it's a root ball, Roto-Rooter. Slam dunk. We're bright human beings. We can solve anything if we can understand it. The problem is not understanding it. So the only question to ask is, what's the obstruction? What's going on here? Why is spirit, why is presence, why is the universe supporting me in this? It's the only question to ask. If you buy my proposition, and I'd ask you to go out there and test it. Nothing better, accepting what any of us say here today, without your own bedrock understanding is foolishness on your part. You should not trust anything we tell you. You should go out there, take it, hammer it out on the anvil of your experience, and prove to yourself that it works. Because no one will ever take it away from you again, and you'll be able to teach it. So there's the only question. What's going on here? What's happening? Why is this showing up the way it's showing up? All right, so I got to tell you a funny story. At one point, I couldn't figure out, like so many of you, I had these strange relationship catastrophes over many years, and catastrophes is the right word. You can ask both my ex-wives. That joke does not work in Lutheran churches. Don't laugh when you joke about divorce. So anyway, my mentor set me down and said, okay, how many of these you got? I said, more than I want to admit to. Marriages, broken relationships. And he said, okay, let's look for the pattern. Let's see what's going on here. And stuff started showing up when we got curious that was very disturbing to me. The first one was that every woman that a relationship deconstructed with for me played the piano. And my mentor said, how do you select for piano playing? I mean, like blonde hair, slim, I mean, all kinds of things. How do you select for piano? How does that happen? I don't know. Well, Mom played the piano. You sensing a pattern? 38 years old. I didn't know that. Sam, I said, piano? Because we got things to talk about, Ron. They went a little further. They all had big smiles. Mom had a big smile. See a pattern? I did too. I got very uncomfortable. I did not want to believe I'd been dating my mom over and over and over and over again. And they all looked different. They were all different. They were all different. But they were reincarnations of the same pattern. And the pattern was this, and I'm real, because we need to be forthcoming, for me to stand up here and pretend like I've got it all together because I'm some special guy is really doing you a disservice. I have struggled with this stuff. And this is important. What I played out over and over and over again was the nature of my relationship with my mom was broken. I took on the job of fixing Mom. Every single relationship was an attempt to fix a broken woman. Now, you can flip the mirror and go, well, what's the nature of that thing? Well, on the other side, they're all looking for a knight in shining armor. If they stop looking for a knight in shining armor will go away, so they can't be fixed. But I'm hooked on fixing them. That's why they turned out to be catastrophes. Over and over and over again. And I didn't understand it. And that was after a lot of therapeutic support. I did a whole bunch of work on this, spirituals, all kinds of stuff. And you line it up and you go, oh man, that's ugly. Ouch. How could I be so stupid? Now I'm cursing the blockage, right? You're a bright guy. How can you miss that? They all played the piano, for God's sake. I could not get it solved till I understood it. There is no solution except by pure fluke, and apparently the universe doesn't support that. So here's a picture for you. Here's why presence is important for our purposes. The way of spirit. So imagine for a moment, think of it, let's put it in a human form because we like to do that. That there's a spirit up there. Dress it up however you want to. That spirit is looking down intimately and compassionately saying, I'm in it with you. You believe you need it? I'll help. Absolutely. And then let's do the visual. You bang your head into a wall. I like to visualize spirit going, oh, that hurt. Wish you wouldn't do that, son. I pick myself up. I get ready to do again. Spirit says, are you sure you want to do that? By God, yes, I'm off again. Okay, I'm in. I will support you absolutely unto the ends of the earth. I will support you. I am intimately, inextricably intertwined in your life, supporting you in everything. Everything from breathing. Anybody here know how they breathe? Well, there's a little bit of mischief in that. That presumes you know what you're doing. If any of us tried to execute a breath right now, we would suffocate. We don't know how to execute a breath. A breath happens. The Sufis would say this. The Sufis would say, first I believed I was the breather, then I believed I was breathing, only to find that I was being breathed, eventually discovering that breath was happening. There's no me there. It's what the mystics have told us. We were talking earlier about the ego being part of the illusion. I was thinking about that. See, we think we're a we. I think I'm a Ron. The mystics of the universe will say there's no Ron there, Ron. And my ego That which wants to believe desperately there's a Ron here goes, oh, I don't know. I sure feel like I'm here. Kick yourself, it hurts. The Sufis would say, first I believed I was the breather, then I believed I was breathing, only to find that I was being breathed. But when finally awakening realized breathing was happening. That's the mystical message. That's where they point you to with meditation, quietness, stillness, the place beyond a self, a someone here. And the only way there is to cooperate with this flow of spirit that's always going on 24/7, nonstop, all the time. You can't not be supported by the universe. It's not possible. It's not designed that way. It's all designed for your growth and development, and it's there all the time. You can't even go to sleep and leave it behind. You all know that, those of you who like do dream travel and all that stuff. Those of you who breathe throughout the course of the night, anybody here not breathe during the course of the night? How does that happen? 24/7, non-stop support, whether you believe it to be God, Spirit, Holy Spirit, the Divine Mother, Great Father, the universe, collective consciousness, 24/7, no exceptions. So what's the only question to be asked? It's only one question. What's the blockage? What's going on here? What happens when you identify the blockage? Somebody said you didn't pick up a tool. What actually happens? Anybody? Some of you know this. You may not know you know this. What happens? You finally see it. You see true in my framework. You see true. What happens? Cause and effect, maybe. Similar to that. What was over here? Okay, that's close. You can release it is also a piece of it. If it's true that Spirit, if you want to go out and try this, try it. If it's true that Spirit is ever responsive 24/7, and you see a blockage, and you say to yourself, if there's a self here to say this, I'm playing with you now. Spirit doesn't have to be asked to have it. All you have to do is see it. Spirit supports you. Spirit, this hurts. Head to heart. Can't do it up here. Sorry. I know you love to think. So do I. It's one of my most prized assets, which is why it's such a problem. When it moves from what we call head to heart, when it moves from thinking into experience, feeling, belief, Spirit always responds. All you got to do is see it clearly. It's the only job you got. You see it clearly, see that it's not working, Spirit will rush in, it'll supply the tool. Or it'll simply wash it away. Anybody ever had a spontaneous removal of something? Perhaps an addiction, a behavior? Yeah, a few people nodding their heads. Who? Yeah, somebody over here? Yeah, mostly when we go back and look at those, and I spend a lot of time with people in recovery, and we go through those, and we go back and we go, we don't know where it went. We don't know how it went. We just know that it went. But if you dig down, what you find is there came this moment. Let's talk about one of the guys I worked with who's a crackhead. He believed crack was essential to his well-being, and the universe kept helping him find crack. He could find crack anywhere. And he could find a lot of it. He didn't even have money and he could find crack. He was reporting to the universe, I desperately need this crack. And the universe helped all along the way. Now, some of you are going to say, you're going to blame God for a crack addiction? I'm not blaming anybody. I'm explaining how it flows. When he stopped needing crack, actually what literally happened, he saw it was killing him. Head to heart, not just, oh, I'm just going to kill. He saw one day, it's like, oh man, I am like dead man walking. Head to heart, I don't want to die. Please, whatever, help. Addiction gone. Addiction gone. That's his story. Now, this is really going to challenge us. We really think, as one of my friends says, we got to think there's something we can do. That would be that ego we were talking about, right? I'm proposing to you that the only thing you can really do, the only thing that's ever been going on is paying attention. Anybody ever heard that anywhere? Your spiritual teachers? Yeah, over and over again? Pay attention. Notice what's going on. Well, if we can stop resisting, a friend of mine says, my ability to stop resisting is completely dependent on my insistence on resisting. I'm only as open-mindedness as my closed-mindedness permits. Try talking yourself out of a deeply held closed mind. Fruitless. Try talking yourself into loving someone you hate. Good luck with that. I tried it. It brought me to my knees. We think we can fix it. My proposition to you about the way of spirit, or the way of presence, my newest discussion of it, which is not for today's subject, if you get a good look at it, I will promise you results. I'm that confident. Now, what happens if it doesn't move? What would you assume? You might not want it to. You certainly don't see it well. Well, you may not be able to acknowledge, you may not see it well enough. Attachment, absolutely. I'm deeply attached to my problems. They define me. If I'm not a guy who fixes people, who am I? What's that? I would be the problem, if there's a me here to be a problem. I would suggest that it's more than reprogramming the mind. I would say it's about taking enough in that it moves from mind, unless you're conceiving of mind as being that body of soul, whatever. Right, there's actually a guy who would say, and I love this, the guy would say that all that's really happening, okay, raise your hand. Okay, all that just happened, I said I was going to come over here. All that just happened, spirit in me asked for something, and spirit in you responded. All there is spirit playing. Sometimes destructively, sometimes painfully. Always responsive, ever present, wincing when we bang our head yet again, offering yet another opportunity, and then saying, okay, you got to do it again. I am completely behind you. Knocked yourself out that time. That's got to hurt, son. You want to do it again? Okay, I am with you. Always. No exceptions. Of course we'll bang our head against the wall again. I'll supply you with all the pain necessary as an appropriate response. It's a beautiful design. So if it's not working, the only question is, okay, what am I not seeing, right? It's the only question. It's the only question. You can go out of here today and try this. Start experimenting. Prove it to yourself. Either that, or you're going to walk out of here either believing I'm a charlatan or an idiot, which John Gorka has a great folk song that says, sometimes I'm an idiot. Many of you know that by now. So, of course, sometimes I'm an idiot. You got to try it. So let's see what you're thinking about this. This is the audience participation part. What are you thinking? And by the way, it's okay to say, how am I doing on time? I got lots of time. Yeah, so it's okay to say, that's crap, Ron. Great. Let's talk about it. Let's talk honestly. Let's stop whitewashing the sepulcher. You all know that phrase? Some of you with Christian backgrounds? What's whitewashing the sepulcher? Whitewashing the sepulcher, you know? Right. The sepulcher was where they put the dead bodies. And what Jesus in this case was referring to is there's dead bodies, they stink, they're rotting, and you can try and put a coat of paint over them, but you know there's still dead bodies rotting in there. You have to say there's dead bodies rotting in there. A coat of paint won't fix it. Now, I've tried a lot of coats of paint. I still do. It still stinks. It's still rotten. Okay, so you had a question.
Yeah, can you clarify what you said about you tried to like somebody and then, brought you to somebody that you hated? What do you mean by that? Why did it bring you to me?
Good question. Thank you. What happened was I decided I would bombard my problem with my will. I decided that I could make myself like somebody who I really, I hated him, let's be honest. I did. Love to tell you that's never happened to me, that I'm a real spiritual being and I don't have hate in my life, but I've struggled with it on occasion. Someone does something that hurts you enough, it's hard not to have those kind of feelings. So I decided, since it's bad to hate, everybody knows that, right? Hate's a perfect response, is it not? Isn't hate a perfect... If you believe you're so injured that the only appropriate response, what I'm proposing to you is Spirit sitting up there going, okay, you need to hate them, let's hate them. But Spirit's in support of us. Doesn't matter whether we're delusional, mentally ill, doesn't matter. I was so sure that I could pray and affirm my way into love. And because I failed so abysmally, I hated that person just as much a year later as I did on the day I started. And there came this moment where it just broke me. I brought everything I had to it, every prayer, every bit of spiritual support I had, my mentors, my spiritual teachers, like I brought it all. And a year later, I was still suffering because I hated this person. And at that moment I said, I am obviously powerless over my ability to love this person. I pulled out everything in my arsenal, and it brought me to my knees. That was the beauty. The pain brought me to my knees. A place of sufficient supplication that I could finally say, okay.
So when that happened, did you no longer hate, or was it more of an acceptance of how you...
First I wept. A long time. There was an old injury from my teenage years. This person was emblematic of that, and I was playing it out. It was a deep, old injury that needed... anybody here study Stephen Levine? You know Stephen Levine? He wrote a book called Unattended Sorrow. And his proposition is the stuff that hardens us, the stuff that creates the blockages is there are things that create sorrow which we don't in our societies deal with. Everything from the first time they said you're fat or you're stupid or you're, whatever. You know, all that stuff, we don't tend to it. What do we say? We go, oh, tough it out. I grew up in Oklahoma, so it's tough it out. Don't admit that it hurt. One of the most profound breakthroughs for me came with a dog that was dying. It's going to make me cry. I loved Rue so much. That dog was just, oof. And she was dying because a previous owner had banged her up against walls and she had brain damage. And one day, and I'm like doing everything I know how to do to get Rue well. Vets and holistic practitioners and chiropractors and acupuncturists and herbs. Everything, because I love this dog so much. And the dog is dying. And I'm laying on the floor with one night like, oh! It just boils up out of me. And from that came the tears and came the memory that when I was 13 years old, my dog got hit by a car. And I loved that dog. And I prayed over that dog for a long time because I knew God could fix my dog. And literally what came up, and I realize I'm on tape, but you need to know how it came up. What came up was, that son of a bitch didn't bring my dog back. And this is the most heartfelt prayer the world has ever seen. I will never cry, and I will never believe in that son of a bitch again. I never cried, and I never believed in that again. Until Rue brought me to my knees, cracked me wide open. I was so devastated. And I wept, and I remembered, and it began to be healed. And things are much, much different now. I couldn't fix it. What I held in here was, I can't trust, I don't believe, you can't trust Spirit. And it was a dog dying that cracked me open. I finally saw what was there. And if I've offended you all with my cursing, please, I apologize. One of the things I've been taught is that sometimes there are two things that are much better than words. One is a good curse word uttered because it carries the full impact of what we're feeling. The other is tears because we don't have words. So sometimes you just, sorry Dolores, sometimes you just got to let one rip. Okay, I'm sorry, that was a very long answer. What are you thinking? Nonsense? Makes sense? Yeah, please, go ahead. No, go ahead. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yeah. Well, here's what's important to understand. How many of you have been in those carnival houses of mirrors? Right? There are often reflections. They rarely look like what we think. Right? So people's usual reaction is, it's like, okay, there's some deal out here. I got this deal going on with you. What's your name? Roberta. I got this deal with Roberta, right? And some wise person will say, well, Ron, what it is about Roberta, it's all about you. And I'll look at it, I can't see it. I can't see it. It's because it's not a perfect reflection. It's a funhouse mirror reflection, if in fact that's true. So it's a good practice to look. It's sometimes very hard to see. Yeah, yeah. 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 And so yeah, there are right. Yeah. And the secret of what I'm suggesting to you here is, if it's not moving, you might want to get curious about what's there. Might be inside you, might be a nice mirror image, might be an oblique mirror image, might be something else, don't know, might be trauma from somewhere, might be a past life trauma. Anybody here got any past life trauma you're working out? No, none of you. Yeah. Yeah. So the secret here is not that there's a right answer. The secret is the inquiry. The inquiry. There's another reason why inquiry is helpful, which is because most of us don't like to be told what to do. Most of us don't like that. So, okay, what else? What are you thinking? Yeah, please.
Well, my experience with the same kind of thing was kind of after doing what you did, all of a sudden I see it. And so I kept trying to continue and I just kept thinking every day, 7 times a day, especially when that I can't deal with this. I don't want to hate this person. I want to love this person. Because it's very good.
Yeah, understood. I was going to repeat it. Or actually, this is the microphone on? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Thank you. I apologize. Go ahead.
Anyway, it took me 3 days of constantly saying, God, I don't want to hate this person. I want to love this person, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what they did, but I want to get rid of this pain I'm
Right.
feeling. And on the 3rd day, I woke up that morning, and I could actually say, truthfully say, I love this person.
It moved. Great.
It moved.
In those cases where it does.
I
Yeah.
flushed the blockage.
Let me make a slight correction consistent with what I'm suggesting. It was removed. You didn't remove it. You reported, apparently at a deep enough level, enough pain and enough desire to have it be different that you got a solution. A solution found you. Yeah. Thank you for asking about the microphone. I'll start passing it around now. Yes, sir.
You just made this statement here a little bit ago that we don't like to be told what to do. Mm-hmm. Now, doesn't this fit in with the conscious mind, which is really the ego, and the ego is nothing but a spoiled kid that wants its way all the time?
Well, if we want to judge it, yes.
Really, what we should try and do is sublimate the ego to the higher self, or the conscious self, or the superconscious self.
Well, let me answer honestly, if we can. For those of you who have struggled, we were talking about this before the session started about, how do you, I think the question Rosia asked was, how do you get rid of the ego?
Well, isn't that why we're all here? Because we got to find out how to do all of this?
That's an interesting question. How many of you are here to get rid of your ego? Show of hands. Yeah, see? No, we're not all here to get rid of our ego. Most of us like our ego. Yeah. Most of us are very attached. Most of us think we're it. Yeah. 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 So here's a point that came out of that last item, thank you, that we were talking about. How many of you embrace pain as a gift? Show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Quite a few of you. Okay. I know it's crazy, right? Why would you embrace pain as a gift? It's a perfect feedback loop. If you can read it. It's a perfect feedback loop. But let me be honest. All right, I'll show this. I mean, the way we usually start is no. Keep that pain away from me. Not interested. There comes a moment, we may get a little bit of movement, and we say, oh, I hate this. I guess it's for my good. Right? Okay, maybe there's something here. This could be good. I'm skeptical, but this could be good. I'm willing. Yes. Yes. And in our enlightened moments, we do silly things like say, bring it on, God. It's a dangerous prayer. I've just spent 6 months. That's another story, another speech. What else? Who's thinking what here? Anybody here really feeling resistance to this, which is just fine? That'd be a perfect response to Spirit, right? Right? If what I'm proposing is true, there aren't any wrong responses. A power of attraction. Okay, how many of you, say something more about that. And then let's see where you're going with that.
Well, you say it's in your heart.
Right?
And Spirit answers you 24/7.
Yeah.
That's the power of attraction. What you want is what the universe will give you.
Okay, I'll buy that. The only thing I would add to it is, rather than saying that I attract it, I would say presence responds.
Okay.
The universe is responsive. Call it universe, call it God. It doesn't matter what you call it. One of my mentors would say, it's the principle that matters, not the name. And in fact, he'd say, God really doesn't care what we think about God. Assuming there is a God, maybe it's just a force. Don't know. Doesn't care. Looks down and says, okay, you don't believe? Fine. I'll support you in that. Be a hardcore agnostic, Ron. Here's where it takes us to nothing but forgiveness and compassion. If it's all perfect response, 24/7, all the time, and there's nothing to be cursed, except we're caught up in rage because it hurts, and then we don't even know, it was like that moment when we don't even know what we're cursing. It's all a gift. All the time, no exceptions, even the pain. Ask the question and we'll go to...
Can we give the gift back?
Anybody want to try answering that one? Who here... Oh, I'm sorry. The question was, can we give the gift back? Anybody here see the movie Groundhog Day? Anybody ever have a moment of enlightenment watching that movie? I did. Let me tell you what happened to me. I saw true that day. I got it. I walked out of that movie going, I get it. I'm going to learn this lesson whether I like it or not. I can't kill myself. I can't escape it. I can't nice my way out of it. I can't anger my way out of it. I'm going to learn this lesson. The only question is, you're going to say yes, you're going to say no. It's your only choice. No always produces more dissonance, more pain, more suffering, and I hate suffering. So I said, okay, it's a perfect design, all for my growth and development, all good, all the time, no exceptions. Yes. Yes. Say again.
How do you get from over there to over there?
Anybody got an answer to that one? Way in the back. You're going to have to speak really loud. Did you hear the question? Yes, I did. Let me bring you a microphone. They're not going to be able to follow me with the cameras. I'm really going to upset them now. But it's a perfect design.
Forgiveness. Is this on?
It is. Yes, ma'am.
Forgiveness. There's a very fine line between love and hate. And your greatest power is to choose. You can choose love and forgiveness, or you can choose hate and sorrow. It's your choice. Thank you for coming.
So I have a hard question. Oh, I got 2 microphones. I have a hard question. If Spirit is perfectly responsive and we can't get where you just said, should we curse ourselves for not being able to forgive? Well, if we could forgive ourselves, I don't have much luck with that either. I'm pretty powerless. That's why they use the word surrender a lot, right? So forgiveness, I absolutely agree with you. What is forgiveness? Let's ask that question. Is not forgiveness the release of a perceived wrong? Isn't it nothing more than that? Think about that. Rosia? Hang on just a second. Rosia had her hand up. Use the microphone, please.
Well, about the reflection, ego, and the other one, the reflection, ego, and what was the other one?
Don't know.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Okay. In my personal experience, the 3 most important men, my ex-husband, my ex-fiancé, and my ex-boyfriend cheated on me. And I got to realize in going through a lot of research and exercise and with a person that helped me see that the ego was in the middle because I was doing it to myself. As a matter of fact, when it reflected to me, it was I was cheating myself of my own power and my own potential to achieve and the lifestyle that I deserve and I wanted it. It was all about me. It came back to me. So now I am in the reconstruction and, feeling different. And I know this time it feels different. It's not going to happen again because it feels that it was gone already. Mm-hmm. So it is the echo, the reflection, and forgiveness.
Sure. That's great. My experience with trying to ditch my ego has been pretty futile. I mean, let's be honest. We like to believe we can do that. Somebody was talking about you were mentioning, there is a settling down, there's quiet, there's stillness, there's meditation, which seems to allow us to move down and sort of slip down through it. But here's what I want you to walk out of here with. I do want you to remember the toilet, because if nothing else, it'll give you a good laugh, and it'll work. You'll remember things. There's 2 things I want you to walk out of here with. I would like you to go out here and test the proposition. Test it any way you can think of, that you are getting perfect response from Spirit, universe, God, whatever you want to call it, 24/7, all the time, no exceptions. When you stub your toe, in whatever way you do, just catch yourself up, a little awareness exercise. Is this perfect response from the universe, God, the divine? Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself the question. See what you find. Prove it to yourself. In this case, the question is, I've forgotten it. The question is, when things happen, when you walk out of here, ask the question, is this, whatever the this is this perfect? Spiritual response. A tornado. Tornado. Is that a perfect spiritual response? Absolutely. You can't have weather systems without tornadoes.
Go back to the toe.
Oh, you stub your toe. You stub your toe. 2 perfect responses. One is, if you stub your toe, you fall, that's bad for you. Or you break your toe, or, right? I mean, stubbing toes is not a good practice generally, right? And the other is, it hurts. And the hurt says, don't do that again. It hurts. Walk so you don't drag your toe again, Ron. Anybody drag their toe on a bicycle or a motorcycle ever? That's a bad stubbing of the toe. It becomes real apparent that stubbing, it's like, that's the extreme. Right? Okay, so you get up in the middle of the night, you bump into something, you bang your knee. Ah! Perfect response? Absolutely. You should be looking where you're going. Turn on the lights. It's useful to see where you're going. It's helpful in a material world. The pain tells you that. Divorce. Perfect response? I got at least one example of that. We were damaging each other so much, there were no good outcomes coming. Wrong woman, wrong man, wrong time, wrong circumstance. I divorced her. and my kids say they're so happy to have their loving parents back. We can be relieved of the feelings, yeah. Well, let's use, for example, drug addiction. If you got no other choice, drug addiction is the solution. I know people who say it kept them living. Delusion. Absolutely, I use it all the time. Divine delusion, I call it. Immaculate delusion. Sometimes it's the best tool I got. Really? Someone runs in here, I'm out of time. Someone runs in here with a hatchet. Run! Good strategy. Right? Shoot him. Probably not a loving thing to do, but sometimes necessary. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up. Walk out of here, ask yourself that question. Could this, whatever this is, be a perfect response from a loving, all-present universe God divine, giving me what I need whether I know it or not? That question will change what you see and will change your life. I promise you. Thanks a lot.